spill the tea 8 here. Today's topic is AITA. Story 1. AITA for telling a social worker the real reason my sister wants a foster kid? So this is a throwaway account. While my sister doesn't use Reddit, we have mutual friends who do. I'm a 28F and I have a sister, 36F, for the sake of story, I'll just call Jane. Jane is married to Bob and they have 2 kids, boy and a girl. My niece and nephew are wonderful kids and no trouble at all. They fight as siblings do, but nothing big. I love them. Now for about 2 years, I did live with my sister. It was a miserable time that really affected our relationship. She saw me as free labor, money, and babysitting. Even when I managed to get a small part-time job, she demanded I hand over nearly half my pay or get out. It was hell as she took completely advantage of me. I moved out as soon as I could and we have little contact outside of family gatherings. Now after I moved out, she started complaining how she has no help with the kids and never gets a break. I babysit sometimes, but I have made it clear, just 'cause I am off work, doesn't mean I want an 8-hour day with my niece and nephew. Anyway, she started talking about how she wanted to foster a kid. Not a kid, but a teenager. I pressed her for more info on this. She wants to adopt a teenager so she has a live-in babysitter for her kids. This is her logic: I want a kid around 16 or 17, someone who may have been in the system for a while. They can share a room with your nephew, she only has a 3-bedroom house, or sleep in the garage. They can help me with housework, chores, cook and help me with my business. She bakes and sells cookies, also babysit the kids so me and Bob can go out sometimes or have some alone time. They'll be so grateful for a home and won't complain. I won't have to pay them at all. And then when they turn 18, I can just sign up for another foster kid. A teenager will be so much easier than a little kid. They will be grateful just to have a roof, food, siblings if they have been separated from their real ones, and clothes. I was horrified. Told her it was a horrible idea. She didn't listen to me. She went on with it anyway. About a month ago, a social worker showed up at my apartment to ask me some questions about my sister. She had put me down as a character witness or something like that. I immediately told the social worker why my sister really wanted to foster a kid and how she treated me when I lived with her. The lady thanked me. My sister called crying saying that she wouldn't be considered for any adoptions or fosters. The social worker told her that they felt her home and her weren't a good fit. She asked if I said anything and I told the truth. She went off on me, hung up, and we haven't spoken since. She has sent some angry texts. A couple family members are on her side. They think foster kids are fing dogs or something and would be so happy just to have a roof and would gladly do all the housework. So AITA here? Edit, so wow. I didn't know my post blew up like this till I got home from work. Thank you everyone for the kind words, messages, and awards. Remember, no child is in control of the circumstances that may have landed them in the foster care system. They are children and still human. They deserve a loving home and care. Do right by a foster kid. And thank you again. Feel free to message me or chat if you like. Story 2. AITA if I stop paying my daughter's tuition over a disgusting comment she made towards my new girlfriend? Everyone sucks. My 56M wife died at the young age of 51 from a car accident. I was in deep mourning for about a year after her death. I met my new GFC, 43F, around January. C was the one who made me laugh for the first time after my wife died. She's smart as hell, 3 Ivy League degrees, has a dark sense of humor that I love, a terrific cook, and overall an amazing woman who I can imagine spending the rest of my life with. She is also on the heavier side, a fact that becomes relevant later. I have 2 children, E, 25M, and A, 19F. They were well aware that I had gotten a new GF before I first introduced them to C this summer. She got along immediately with E, but A was very standoffish. After that initial meeting, I asked A if there was something wrong, but she denied it. C made a few more attempts to get to know A, but they were all rudely rejected. E and A both came home for Thanksgiving dinner. I asked A to please be polite during the meal since she's always been rude in her interactions with C, even though C has been nothing but gracious in return. The dinner was going as well as it could have for the first 10 minutes, although I noticed A glaring at C the entire time. When C went to grab her third helping of mashed potatoes, A said, "Don't you think you've eaten enough, you fat pig?" C started sobbing immediately and ran off into the bedroom. I felt my face turn red and told A to get out. About half an hour after A left, I texted her stating that I would no longer pay her tuition unless 1. She apologized to C and 2. C accepts her apology. I must have a holiumed that I was bluffing because she instead doubled down on her behavior during Thanksgiving dinner. I then logged into her university's tuition payment website, canceled next semester's tuition, and sent her the screenshots. She called me crying and begging me to reconsider, but I told her my mind was made up. Now to the top comments. Jojo Amethyst. Esh. Something more is undoubtedly going in between C and A. You need to find out why A has such a strong dislike of her and reacted so strongly. A is probably still deep in mourning for her mother. You've managed to put your grief behind you, but the process is much slower for some people. Seeing C in her mother's place at Thanksgiving was probably very hard on your daughter. That doesn't excuse her rudeness, but it might explain it. Secondly, you've made your daughter's tuition dependent on C accepting her apology. As the fees are something between you and your daughter, that's not appropriate, especially as C seems to be the issue here. Edit. When I say C is the issue, I mean the relationship C and A have, not C herself. Potsy Harris. Yes, OP, as someone who has been the daughter in almost this exact situation. Please understand how truly terrifying it is to be a teenager, lose one parent, and then have your only remaining parent meet someone else really fast and suddenly make that new person's needs and happiness a priority over your own. My dad and stepmom also encouraged me to talk with them about my feelings, but I didn't want to share my feelings with a woman I had basically just met, and then I was punished later for it in much the way you are expressing, saying that daughter had the chance to share her true feelings, but didn't. I have been the daughter whose father chooses a new woman and suddenly I'm a brat for being scared and unhappy and not very nice. I have had my dad make my relationship with him contingent on my relationship with a woman I barely knew. It sure didn't teach me a lesson. It just made me feel really alone, sad and resentful. Frankly, if you expect to bring a new woman into your life so sook after your wife's paw-holing and have it go totally hunky-dory with your daughters, you're not thinking realistically and placing unfair expectations on your daughters. Though obviously speaking so rudely is over the line, your daughter actually has every right to be having a hard time with this. Also, please recognize that while it's so wonderful you've learned to love again and you want to share this goodness with your children, your daughters do not have the option to find a new mom. They will never meet some wonderful woman to fill that empty hole for them and build anew. OP, your daughter needs you to be there for her. You may not feel like you can help her. Maybe your wife was the one who used to know how to do these things, have these talks. You may not feel like your daughter needs you, but she does. Punishing her like this is only going to drive her away from you. Please just talk to her. Story 3. AITA for not taking in my in-laws and not helping them with medical bills. Not the a-hole. Throwaway account. I, 24M, do pretty well for myself, have my own place, a stable/boring job that doesn't require much of my attention and pays well while I work from home, have plenty of hobbies, buy nice clothes. Just in general have a pretty comfortable life. My fiancé, 26F, moved in when we got engaged about 2 years ago. Important context is that everything is on my name. And she doesn't pay rent, only bills specific to her, like buying the things she likes to eat with her own money, and helps with some of the utility bills. About 10 months back, my father-in-law, 56, was diagnosed with a pretty curable case of lung cancer, since he had an early-ish diagnose. But my in-laws don't have the best financial condition, and these months of medical bills and other expenses might see them homeless and father-in-law without money to stay on his treatment. My in-laws have always treated me like shite, and were always openly against my relationship to their daughter, to the point where they'd explicitly would tell her not to bring me to family gatherings and invite her ex things of this nature, and yes, she had my back and stopped attending said family gatherings, but she still loves her family and they mean a lot to her, so she asked if we could take them in and help her father with his treatment. To which I said no, without thinking twice. She asked if I can't think on it for a few days, and I replied if I think on it for a few days, I'll only be more sure of my already obvious conclusion. They're not setting foot here and I don't care what happens to either of them, she replied, saying something along the lines of us having the income to spare, and that is true, but around 70% of it is my income, not hers, and space, also true, and asked me if my hobbies and spending money on myself, that kinda got me annoyed since I spend a lot of money on US, not just me, although yeah, I have a few hobbies I spend on, was really more important than her family, to which I simply said, yeah, it is. Now, my fiancé didn't blow up at me or anything, she's not one for conflict, but she called me in a hole and has been staying last couple of days over at her parents', still calls me before bed every night but is still clearly pissed at me. Very, very pissed. AITA? Edit, since a lot of people asked and some pointed out it could be important info. I come from a Japanese family and she, her family and her ex are all African American. Also, another frequent question is if I know why they dislike me. I don't, they won't say anything to my face ever, but have disliked me from day one, and I know that they argued with my fiancé because of me several times, especially in the earlier days. Update. Well, yesterday FIL and MIL were at the doctor's the whole afternoon, so my fiancé came over for a talk and said she understands why I refuse help them, and said that being at their place just over a few days reminded her I was completely in my right to not care, as even in bed with cancer, her father won't shut up about her breaking up with me. She apologized for having even asked in the first place, as they don't deserve it even if I was willing, her words. She also said that while she was angry at the way I spoke about her parents possibly dying/being homeless, as many of you suggested, I apologized for the way I spoke, she was angrier at herself for being just as financially irresponsible as they are in not having any money to help them herself. I pointed out a bunch of issues with her financial decisions that she agreed had to change, and she asked for my help with teaching her to be more financially responsible. She asked if I felt used for her not paying that much around the house. I said no, but if it'll make her feel better and help her make better financial decisions, we have a couple more bills around the house she can pick up, but told her to only worry about that after her father is done with treatment, and for now, just keep helping them with her money. Then I spent a whole bunch of time explaining to her all the different resources, social programs, financial aid, and charities her parents could reach out to, like a lot of you suggested as well, thanks, so they can stay afloat while FIL gets his treatment, and just gave her some general financial advice. I also found a buyer for their house, Bello Market, but still, they get the money they need and can move into a cheapish rental that fiancé and her parents can split the rent for now. Now to the top comments. Benedictine baby. NTA, have you suggested that she contact her ex to help them out? I'd die on that hill if I were you. Stay strong, brother.